There are places in the world where darkness doesn't mean that something is gone. It means you simply can't see it anymore. Deep swamps, remote jungles, forgotten trails where the trees grow so thick that sunlight barely reaches the ground. Places where a person can walk for hours without seeing another human being. But that doesn't mean they're alone, because beneath the black surface of the water, something could be waiting. Inside a wall, something could be moving. And somewhere beyond the reach of your flashlight, something could already be following you. Tonight, we're telling 3 fictional horror stories about people who entered the wilderness believing they understood the danger. They didn't, and by the time they realized what was hunting them, it was already too late. Daniel's truck stopped at 11:47 p.m. There was no warning. 1 second, he was driving along the narrow dirt road through the wetlands. The next, the engine coughed twice and died. Daniel tried the ignition again. Nothing. He looked at the dashboard. The fuel gauge was just above empty. His phone showed 1 bar of signal. Then that disappeared too. He sighed and stepped outside. The night was completely silent. No insects, no birds, not even wind. Just darkness. Daniel opened the hood and stared at the engine, but he knew almost nothing about repairing cars. After several minutes, he gave up. He remembered seeing a small ranger station marked on an old map. It was approximately 2 miles away. 2 miles. He could walk that. At least, that's what he thought. Daniel grabbed his flashlight and started down the road. The path soon became narrower. The trees grew closer together, and eventually, the dirt road disappeared beneath shallow water. Daniel stopped. The swamp stretched ahead of him. He could still see the old ranger station on his map. It was on the other side. He considered turning around. Then he heard something. A splash. Daniel froze. He slowly turned his flashlight toward the water. Nothing. He waited. Another splash. This time, closer. He pointed the light across the swamp. Still nothing. Probably a fish, he whispered. He stepped into the water. The mud immediately swallowed his boots. He pulled 1 foot free, then the other. Slowly, he continued forward. The water reached his knees. He kept his flashlight pointed ahead. Then he noticed something strange. The water behind him was moving. A narrow ripple followed his path. Daniel stopped. The ripple stopped too. He moved forward. It followed. He turned around. Nothing. His breathing became faster. Then he saw 2 tiny reflections in the darkness. About 20 feet away. 2 eyes. Floating just above the water. Daniel raised his flashlight. The eyes disappeared. He took another step. A huge shape moved beneath the surface. Daniel backed away. His boot slipped. He fell into the water. For several seconds, he couldn't breathe. Then he felt something brush against his leg. He scrambled upright. "Go away," the words barely came out. He turned toward the nearest patch of dry ground and started running. Behind him came a violent splash. Daniel looked back. Something enormous had surfaced. The flashlight beam caught a massive crocodile. It was far larger than any crocodile Daniel had ever seen. Its jaws opened. Rows of teeth reflected the light. Daniel ran. The crocodile disappeared beneath the water. Daniel reached an old wooden platform and climbed onto it. He collapsed, shaking. The platform was part of an abandoned hunting structure. For the first time, he felt safe. Then the entire platform shook. Daniel looked down. Something had slammed into the supports beneath him. The wooden boards groaned. Another impact. Harder. Daniel crawled backward. The crocodile wasn't trying to reach the water. It was attacking the platform. Again and again. Wood cracked beneath him. Daniel grabbed his flashlight and searched for another escape route. Nothing. The crocodile struck again. 1 support snapped. Daniel screamed. The platform tilted violently. He grabbed a metal railing. Below him, the water churned. Then something even worse happened. The crocodile stopped attacking. It simply floated there, watching him. Daniel slowly looked behind himself. A second pair of eyes had appeared in the water. Then another. Then another. There wasn't one crocodile. There were several. They had surrounded the platform. Daniel realized the first crocodile hadn't been trying to kill him immediately. It had been driving him toward the platform, and now he was trapped. He looked toward the distant ranger station. A faint light was visible through the trees. He could hear a generator. Someone was there. Daniel screamed for help. Nothing. He screamed again. Then the platform collapsed. At sunrise, Rescuers found Daniel's truck. They found his flashlight near the swamp. They found pieces of the wooden platform floating in the water. But they never found Daniel. The strangest discovery came several hundred yards away. Deep in the mud were enormous crocodile tracks. They led away from the water and toward the ranger station. Emma and Ryan found the ranger station just before sunset. They had been hiking for 2 days when a storm forced them off the main trail. The building looked abandoned. The windows were broken. The wooden door hung crookedly from one hinge. But there was a roof and 4 walls. That was enough. They decided to spend the night. Inside, the station smelled like wet wood and dust. There were 2 old bedrooms, a kitchen, and a small storage room. Ryan found an old lantern. Emma managed to get it working. For several hours, everything was normal. They ate dinner, talked quietly, and listened to the rain hitting the roof. Then, at approximately 1:20 a.m., Emma heard scratching. She opened her eyes. Scratch, scratch, scratch. She looked toward the wall. Ryan? No answer. She sat up. The sound came again. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It sounded like something moving inside the wall. She woke Ryan. He listened. What is that? I don't know. Ryan grabbed the lantern. They followed the sound into the hallway. It stopped. They waited. Nothing. Ryan laughed nervously. Probably rats. They returned to the bedroom. 5 minutes later, something hit the wall, hard. Both of them jumped. A crack appeared near the bottom of the wooden paneling. Emma stepped backward. Then a long, dark shape pushed through the opening. A snake. It slowly emerged from the wall. Its body kept coming, and coming, and coming. It was enormous. Emma screamed. Ryan grabbed a chair and smashed it against the wall. The snake disappeared through the opening. They ran outside. Rain poured around them. Ryan slammed the door shut. We're sleeping in the car. They grabbed their backpacks. Then Emma stopped. Ryan? What? She pointed toward the building. There was another scratching sound. From the opposite wall. Then another. From the ceiling. Then another. From underneath the floor. Ryan stared at her. The building was surrounded by noise. Something was moving everywhere. They ran toward their vehicle. Ryan opened the driver's door. Emma climbed inside. He started the engine. Nothing. The battery was dead. They were trapped. Ryan grabbed the emergency radio. No signal. Then the station lights suddenly turned on. Both of them stared at the building. The generator had somehow started by itself. A light flickered inside the hallway, and for a moment, they saw something moving across the windows. Not one snake, several. They were crawling through the rooms. Emma whispered, "How many are there?" Ryan didn't answer. They ran. Their only option was the old maintenance tunnel behind the station. They found it beneath a collapsed wooden hatch. The tunnel was narrow, wet, almost completely dark. But it led toward the main road. They crawled inside. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then Emma heard scratching. Behind them, Ryan turned his flashlight. A snake was inside the tunnel, far behind them. Then another appeared. They started crawling faster. The tunnel became narrower. Emma could barely breathe. The snakes continued following. Finally, they saw moonlight. The tunnel opened beside the road. Emma climbed out. Ryan followed. They ran until they found a passing vehicle. The driver stopped. They were safe, or so they thought. The next morning, police returned to the ranger station. They found dozens of snake tracks around the building, but they couldn't find a single snake. There was something else. Inside the walls, they discovered an old tunnel system. It connected the ranger station to several underground chambers, and scratched into the wooden wall of one chamber were dozens of deep lines, as if someone had been trapped inside. Emma survived. Ryan survived. But months later, Emma was driving alone at night. She heard something. Scratch, scratch, scratch. She stopped the car. The sound came from behind her. Inside the trunk. Emma stared at the rearview mirror. Then she heard a slow hiss. 4 hikers entered the forest on a Saturday morning. They were experienced. They had maps, GPS devices, emergency supplies, and enough food for 3 days. The ranger at the entrance had warned them about the weather, but he gave them another warning too. Stay on the marked trail. One of the hikers laughed. Of course. They didn't. By afternoon, they had taken a shortcut. The path disappeared. Then they found something strange. A long trail through the dirt. Something heavy had been dragged across the ground. They followed it. The marks disappeared beneath thick vegetation. One of them noticed something else. A huge snake track crossed the trail. They measured it. It was wider than a man's hand. Nobody joked anymore. They decided to return, but the sky had already become dark. They made camp. At approximately 11 p.m., they heard movement, leaves rustling, slowly. Carefully, one of them shined a flashlight toward the trees. Nothing. Then a branch moved. Everyone became silent. A long shape appeared between the trees. A snake. It was enormous. Its body disappeared into the darkness. Only its head was visible. It didn't attack. It simply watched them. Then it disappeared. The hikers packed their bags immediately. They decided to leave. But as they moved through the forest, they heard something behind them. Heavy footsteps. Not a snake. Something heavier. They turned. A crocodile emerged from the darkness. They froze. There was no river nearby. No swamp, no lake, nothing. Yet the crocodile was standing directly on the trail. One hiker whispered, "How is that possible?" The crocodile moved forward. They backed away. Then the snake appeared behind them. The hikers were trapped between two predators. They ran. Branches tore at their clothes. Their backpacks caught on trees. Someone fell. The others pulled him up. They reached a narrow, rocky passage. The crocodile stopped behind them. The snake stopped ahead. Neither animal moved. The hikers suddenly realized something. The predators weren't attacking. They were controlling where the hikers went, pushing them deeper into the forest. They turned around. The crocodile moved forward. They turned back. The snake moved closer. The only direction left was a narrow path between the rocks. They had no choice. They entered. The path descended underground. It opened into a massive hollow beneath the forest. And that's where they discovered hundreds of old animal bones. Some were enormous. Some were impossible to identify. Then they heard something behind them. A slow scraping sound. The snake entered the chamber. The crocodile appeared at the entrance. The hikers had nowhere to go. One of them noticed a narrow opening in the rock. They crawled through it, one by one. The opening became smaller. The predators couldn't follow. Finally, they emerged on the other side of the mountain. The sun was rising. They had escaped, or so they believed. Only 3 hikers reached the road. The 4th was missing. They searched for him. They couldn't find him. Then they noticed something on the dirt. A single line running through the mud. Something had dragged itself away from the forest. The line ended beside the road. Months later, investigators returned to the forest. They found the underground chamber. They found the bones. But they found no evidence of the crocodile. No nest, no tracks, nothing, except one enormous snake track leading deeper into the cave. And beside it, fresh human footprints. Wild places are beautiful because they remain unpredictable. But that's also what makes them terrifying. You can carry a flashlight, a map, a phone, a GPS. You can prepare for almost anything. But nature doesn't care how prepared you think you are. Because somewhere beneath dark water, inside a forgotten building, or deep beneath the trees, something may already be watching. And sometimes, the most terrifying warning isn't a roar. It isn't a hiss. It's silence. The kind of silence that happens when everything around you suddenly stops moving. Because maybe they stopped moving because they saw something before you did. If you enjoyed these fictional horror stories, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more terrifying mysteries and nightmare stories. And tell us in the comments, would you rather be trapped in a swamp with a crocodile or alone in a jungle with a giant snake?